Hello, everyone. This is Logan. For those who don't know, I'm the one that edits all these. Just wanted to let you know that we ran into some tech issues with the audio that I'm having a really hard time trying to get around. So basically, what's happening is like every couple minutes, the audio skips ahead a few seconds, and it's kind of a pain. So I'm just going to leave the audio in the background and just kind of do something with the video, so it's not a pain to look at. So other than that, enjoy the video.
Welcome back to the Discourse Debrief. I am Peyton.
I'm Logan.
Blossom.
I'm Robert, and I'm last.
Hey, last is not least. Okay.
That's
Nonetheless,
1/5 of 25.
Oh, God, y'all are mathematical with it.
Graduating.
But speaking of numbers, we do have our announcement, which Logan is going to take away for our next event.
I'm just going to do all of our events right now so we don't get yelled at.
Shout out, Ted.
So by the time this is up, our March 4th event should have happened already. Am I correct in that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. March 25th, we are having a faculty panel. A room that we had planned on booking got filled up. So I think one of our interns is working on that. So we should have more information as we get closer. So that's March 25th. April 12th, all four of us will be at Flagstaff for the Regents competition. So do you guys know if they live stream any of the rounds?
They do.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so yeah, be on the lookout for that. We'll see if we can get a link to that at some point and maybe put it somewhere. So that's April, and then May at the end of our semester we have our debate, and that is on DEI and higher education, right?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're still working out the kinks for that, ironing out what the positions are going to be. But yeah, it will be about diversity and equality in education. And our fellow interns, some of us at this table, will be on that panel.
Yeah,
Most of us, except Logan. He's excluded.
always.
Unless I flake, and then he's subbing in.
So yeah, March 25th, April 12th, and then end of the semester. That's what we've got lined up as of right now.
Perfect.
Also, we should shout out the Twitter and the No Need to Argue podcast.
Yes.
All of our social media, really. So
Yep.
the podcast is also on Spotify along with the No Need to Argue
Yep.
podcast.
All
so
of that
check
you
that
can
out.
you can find in the description. All the tags. Tags?
Yeah,
Sure.
Why not?
Handles.
English.
Yeah, there we go. That's
Yeah.
the word I'm looking for. But that's all for me. I'll hand it back to you, and then you can do whatever.
Yeah, I think that covers just about everything. And now, first topic ever and of the season is yours. Where are we going today?
I have some notes here.
Oh God.
Okay.
I liked Blossom's idea with her topic where she had broad questions and then she narrowed it down. So I'm going to do the same thing. I promise I'm not manipulating you. The first question I have for everyone is, how do you personally define justice? What is justice to you?
Oh God, from the leader.
I don't want to go first.
You look so excited about
You
it,
should
though.
go.
It's a fun topic. I don't want to go first.
I
though.
feel like you should
I
just for that.
need to make sure I'm getting a name right. So
Yeah.
Bro's Googling.
Okay.
Bro's got GPT open. Justice.
The reason I don't want to go first is because it's going to get boring. I'm going to be like, it has different definitions depending on the context, which is why I want to hear what y'all's are and build off of
No.
them.
We want to hear your unadulterated, unfiltered thoughts. and
We want to
opinions.
hear your 45 minutes of abstract nonsense. You want
okay.
to say less?
Justice. So, justice, I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking law and I'm thinking morality. Oh, wait, it's almost as if we did an episode for this in our last season. Go check out that episode. But nonetheless, in my head, there's two things, right? There's individual subjective conceptions of justice that are going to be heavily influenced by everything, your upbringing, your culture, your personality, all kinds of things. And then there's going to be a more legal version, which is objective. If you break rules, you will be punished accordingly. And the roots of that we can talk about maybe later. But
Why are the rules not in line with the culture? Why is there a dichotomy?
they are. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think that
They're not.
there's I'm saying there's subjective justice and objective justice. The subjective is going to be personal, and the objective is going to be more cultural, societal, on a national level.
Okay. Anything more substantial?
Damn, that's crazy. I'll go purely for morality on this one, I think that whatever people do to advance their own happiness is probably just, as long as that doesn't come at the expense of someone else's happiness.
Herd principle.
Pretty much.
Nice.
Pretty much yes.
You need a.
I know.
Okay.
This is hard because I feel like I disagree with the both of you.
Heaven forbid.
That's the first.
Me and Discourse on the
it's-
Discourse Debrief.
I feel like when we talk about justice, I often think about the law. And the law is not a circumstance sometimes. And that is in direct conflict most times with morality. So we cannot always define justice as what is moral. Sometimes morality and the law are two different places. Because if a man steals because he's hungry or needs to feed his family, like he has a child, she's sick, she's crying, he goes, steals bread, the law punishes you because you stole that bread. But what he did technically is because of his poor dying child. I want empathy, but the law does not have empathy. And to be moral, I think you need empathy.
Yeah.
Do you think that action was justified?
I think the action was justified from the man's perspective.
Which is
Hard to
that
tell.
was.
I think.
Well, no, I think that this exactly highlights why I made the distinction between the two. Because on an individual level, we're capable of making classifications for
I should correct
justification.
myself. I don't think it was justified in the eyes of the law, but in the eyes of from one human being to another.
I actually take it only. I don't necessarily think that just because a legal system says something is okay or isn't, it makes it justified or not justified. I think the words are used, but I take it strictly for me what justice is where, power and politics and morality meet, and they meet to advance the well-being of everyone as best as they can. So obviously when it comes to like criminal law or civil law, someone's going to get hurt because someone was hurt regardless. But you're still taking into account everyone and trying to have the best outcome given the circumstance. So the legal system doesn't necessarily have to be respecting that for me to think whether or not something's just. Like a hungry man stealing for his family, that to me is just regardless of what. Okay.
That's good.
Then, with laws specifically, then, if the word you wouldn't use is justified, what word would you substitute?
Legal.
So just legal or illegal?
Yeah, I mean, like for the legal system, they can decide whether or not something's falls within the bounds of the law or not, but that's different than saying whether or not it's just.
I can grant that. Yeah, no, that's good.
You know what? Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay, I have some more questions. Do you think that social determinants like race, socioeconomic status, and geography shape access to justice in America, specifically in America?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to elaborate?
Expatiate.
Yeah.
Expatiate, please.
Well, just so we're all on common ground really quick. So do we all agree that when we're talking about the law, we can remove the justice aspect and kind of set that as legal versus illegal and agree that justice is maybe a more personal kind of thing?
Yeah, you could if you want.
I mean, it's going to be shaped by like things, but
I guess the main distinction here is, do we agree that the justice system, so the laws that we have in place, do we agree that that system should try to promote justice for everyone?
yeah.
And so then working off of that definition, do we think that there are social factors that either make it easier or harder for that justice system to provide you with justice?
Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. So
Okay.
I would answer, sorry, I forgot the framing of the question. Yes, there are factors that will make it different for people depending on where you are, race, culture, all that stuff. The question I ask, and I guess maybe you can go to you two and it'll be kind of building off of this, is it the people's circumstance fault? Because we can't really blame people for, their culture, race, ethnicity, things like that.
I guess my answer is maybe. It depends on the individual, because I think the individual, they have like a right to determine what their own sense of justice is. So maybe their circumstances don't prevent them from seeking whatever their idea of justice is. But for us, we might say, hey, their circumstances, they do. But I think it's up to the individual to decide that.
It's up to the individual to decide whether or not they can achieve their own sense of justice.
No, I think it's up to the individual to define what justice is to them. And then based on that, I'd say maybe their circumstances do inhibit them. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to blanketly say that like everyone who's, makes under 30K a year is going to be, barred from justice or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Blossom?
On the surface, I just want to blanketly say, be bold and just say yes. Mm-hmm. I do think your socioeconomic status, like the justice system that America probably has probably, and I don't, because I feel like just based off the history, your country was founded with the idea of equality for all, and so they made those laws with the idea that everyone was equal. In your status, your background, race, everything was fine. Like it was like kumbaya.
Yeah.
And and then you progressed and things are not equal. No one was equal. Your economy, background, race. And so just straight up, your justice system probably did not cater to those differences because it was kumbaya. Everyone's happy, one big family, la 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 la. So no, it doesn't. Even if you define your system for what it is, I think reality is a different thing.
Yeah.
There's objective reality, and then there's whatever you choose to believe too.
So with that, do you think there's like one objective definition of justice?
I would say there's something that we can say is fair. Like you can look at a case, and everyone can agree it's fair, regardless of how you want it to turn out. Like regardless of your personal opinion, because I've seen some cases where I'm like, I wish they just let him go free. But I can look at all the circumstances and be like, but the verdict that was given is fair.
I can think of a couple cases recently where I have that mentality.
Like you met at the middle, like
exactly.
Saying, but you can be like, personally, I would have done this, and that's different. So there's an objective kind of justice.
That's why if we want to make a definition of justice, it's like setting a baseline. We've been talking about this in a lot of our recent conversations, just setting like a standard to meet. That standard should be where power and politics and morality all can come together and agree. And I feel like if you have all of those things in agreement, then you're pretty close to a fair judgment. Mm-hmm.
Is that possible?
I think it's possible for sure, but...
Explain why.
I will.
Because I don't think it is. But
we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. Don't jump ahead of me.
It's a conversation, dog. But sorry.
Blossoms, I'm the arbiter of justice here.
Fair enough.
This is Blossom's point that the system is not equal. So would you guys just agree with that? Would you agree that the system has inequalities?
I would go a step further and say that it's never been equal. Mm-hmm. Because sure, like a lot of the rhetoric of like the revolutionaries was equality for all, but it was the white landed men, right? Yeah. Those were the ones who could vote. So even at our inception, there's going to be class, race.
I said that.
Okay. But maybe I misunderstood. But yeah, I think we've been making steady progress. Yeah. But as progress has happened, new problems have come up, and long story short, no, there are definitely still inequalities.
Logan?
I guess I would argue with like the phrasing of the question because now stick with me on this one. I don't think we are equal in the first place, just as people. I would substitute it for like equitable, and then my answer would be the same and say no, it's not equitable.
I prefer equitable. I don't think that anyone is equal.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we don't think that the system is equitable then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, can true justice, this is a great jumping off point to my next question, can true justice ever be achieved in a system with inherent inequity?
No.
No?
No.
Do you want to expatiate?
I just think inequity and justice are in like direct opposition. So by logic, no, you can't have both at the same time.
I would go further. I don't think that we can ever truly have an equitable society. Maybe that's. I think we can get very close. I think we can get very close, and we should strive for it.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, I agree. Like a utopia will never exist.
Oh, I'm not arguing for utopia.
I know. I
but,
understand. I certainly think that we can close gaps, and we have a long way to go. But
why do you think an equitable society can never be achieved?
I don't trust people enough, given their circumstances, our circumstances as like an American society, for instance, because that's what I'm familiar with, to all, like as generations go on, tend towards selflessness. And again, I grant that that doesn't necessarily exist in principle, maybe, but
Isn't that why?
I don't know.
Isn't that why like the system would step in to help fill those gaps and push them along the right way? I mean, if we're making moderate progress.
Yeah, but the system is run by those same people.
Yeah.
That are,
Like I said,
inherently
like I was
bad.
saying though, if we're making moderate progress, like you said, is it not reasonable to believe that over time we would reach a point where we can say, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty equitable system. Like I feel like perfection, something doesn't have to be perfect to be equitable. Like we don't have to have a utopia to say that this is like an equitable society.
yeah, maybe this is just naive, but I think, I mean, you know about history. You probably know a little bit. Maybe you do too. I just know that he plays map games. But nonetheless, I think like it's almost a constant in human history that there is always like in-group, out-group, no matter where you are, be it like a rival kingdom or a rival race, just a different race. There's always going to be some kind of inherent exclusivity factor that I think isn't. I think it's constant. It's been a constant theme across humanity.
I think that equating human history with human nature is like a bit of a misstep though.
I'll just go purely human nature, and I'll go like a sort of philosophical route. I think people are just kind of like inherently bad. So under that definition, I don't think we can.
I wouldn't go that far. But,
Okay, Hobbes.
but maybe tell me why you disagree.
Well, like I said, just because we have evidence of there being inequity and there being exclusivity doesn't mean that it's in our nature to exclude people. I don't think it's ever meant that.
I don't think that's what I'm saying necessarily.
Because-
I think it's.
I mean, for every example you can bring up of an in-group excluding an out-group, I can bring up an example of a mass number of people that outweigh that, banding together and overcoming that.
Yeah, that's not quite what I'm saying. I think that people always have a tendency to view themselves differently from other people, no matter what progress we make. So, like, I think, take even like less than 100 years ago, race, right? People, whether you're like black, white, and you could still value them equally as like humans, but you're going to recognize a difference. And I feel like
I mean, I don't think that individualism and like self-identity is in contradiction with equity.
I think it makes it very difficult, especially when we start talking about millions of people.
So you're saying like because there are differences among like person to person, that maybe doesn't make equity impossible. It makes it very, very hard.
Yeah, I just think it's hard, and so I'm pessimistic about like the time scale. I think.
What do you think, Blossom?
First of all, I think fairness does not equal perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Yeah.
I think fairness, I think just. And there is no perfect system. If it was
Yeah.
a perfect system, all of us would not exist. The world would have been a perfect system without human beings.
No government would be necessary.
So it's like, so first of all, take that out of the equation. I
Yeah.
think we
Mhm.
can have like something equitable. It still have its flaws, but it's striving every day to be better.
Yeah.
So that's what we can do. Now, I disagree with the point that because we are inherently different, that we cannot be equitable. Because I can
Yep.
tell you that you can have a homogeneous society, and I bet you that people will still fight, even though they look exactly the same.
That's the point I'm making, though.
But the thing is,
Wha-
I don't think that necessarily is the only factor that makes a system had to be equitable.
I'm gonna raise a question. So you say like there's no such thing as like perfect or true justice or something along those lines.
Yeah, a perfect
System. Yeah.
A
So-
perfect system, a perfect justice system will require someone who's higher than just
Right. Okay.
us.
So following that,
it literally have to be.
what if what we have in place right now is as good as it's ever gonna get?
That's not true.
Well, we can
Just
entertain the
because
question.
we won't have perfection doesn't mean things can just never get better. It doesn't mean that like what we have right now
Right,
is
but-
as good as it gets. And I think that we have pretty clear evidence is not as good as it gets. I mean, we don't go from Jim Crow to as good as we're going to get in 80 years.
Yeah. Like the system is going to we're going to spike, reach a plateau, spike again, reach a plateau, spike, and that's the growth.
One might call it a permanent revolution.
What?
Dip here and there.
Yeah. It's just because if we reach a constant plateau, that's where we never change and we just have constant. And that's not how human society works. Like, we're all going to die off and the new generation is going to be born and they're going to revolutionize everything. It's just how it goes.
It's like a cycle. But for me, I personally believe that cycle trends upwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We have like a high of a society, and then we have a plateau, and then we have a low of a society, and then we have like something that brings it back up to another high. And it's not anywhere near perfect, but it's better than where they were, a couple decades ago or a couple generations ago. And so generally to me, we have this constant cycle, but the cycle is trending upwards.
Maybe the way I was framing it maybe not seem like that's what I was thinking, but that is what I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah.
I just think that because I believe that even if there's like a homogenous group, there's still like, I think we all grant that they're going to find reasons to infight. There's still going to be a down, right? There's going to be, that cycle's going to happen, but I do think generally it's going to trend
also, conflict is part of justice. If you don't have conflict, you don't have a reason to have justice. We don't need to have that argument. So the fact that people are going to fight is why we need a justice system and why we want to find an equitable justice system, because I'm not going to argue about human nature because honestly, I'm kind of idealistic about it. So
I was literally about to pick up the side.
Exactly. That's why I make systems arguments, because I do believe that people will always fight. They'll always find a reason to fight, but we want to come up with a system that is fair to everyone, regardless of their fights. So on that note, how do we move towards a more perfect justice system? How do we move towards a more just America? Do we have ideas? Ideation?
I would say straight up reform. I'm always for reform. There are flaws inherent in the justice system, and those who work in it know what it is. They can see it. And I think that we've let people who enjoy those flaws for too long stay in those places. And we've let the people who benefited from them, that if we want to become, or if America wants to become something more just, they have to go back to the drawing board, look at those laws and constitution that was not made in good faith. It was made to spite people or harm people, and then either start plucking them out one by one or reforming them. That's it. And I think also there are so many stratas that needs to be reformed. And it's not that it can't be reformed. It would take time, it would take work, and it would take effort, and it would make a lot of people bleed in different ways, like money, time, whatever. But I do think that it would be for the betterment of the society in general. That is, if only Americans in general want to do that.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go. I'm going to go like a layer abstracted from where you're at. If we want reform, we need to show the people why it would be beneficial for everybody, right?
Is that where the downward trend comes in, do you think? Or do you think that it's something that we would hit on about how societies move? Where in this cycle would you say that this movement to reform comes from?
I mean, I think it's going to be almost like an exponential curve. So let's say we have the cycle, right? And then we have the desire of reform exponential curve, right? If we're at peak of a given cycle and we're everything's pretty good, all things considered, then people aren't going to have to think about the fact that, well, there are still problems, there's still progress to be made. As we get further and further along, the more and more people are going to recognize their own suffering and other people's suffering, and their willingness and awareness of not only the fact that inequities exist, but that they can do something about it is going to trend upward accordingly. But then part of that cycle is when everything becomes mostly okay again, that awareness is going to go back down, I think.
I agree. Logan?
I on the individual level, I'm going to say I don't know that we can, because to draw from last week, so long as racism exists, I don't think that we can make those progressions. And I I don't envision a reality where we can completely, root that out. Regardless if it's like through education or like parenting, I don't see that as being possible.
But we don't need to root it out.
Just progress. That's like, you don't think that it's possible to make a better system while racism exists?
Or to trend towards less racism?
Well, I guess on a structural level, yeah, it's possible. But like how we perceive it and how it's maybe enforced, I don't know.
Do you sorry.
There you go.
Do you think that, racism was prevalent in 1954 when Brown v. Board happened with the Supreme Court? Mm-hmm. Did we move towards a more just system?
Yes.
Was society
I think
more racist then than it was now?
Yes, but as you know, like the first Brown decision was like really, really flawed in the wording.
Yeah, and then they made a second one.
Yeah. No, yes, obviously it progressed, but I think we're at a point where, and I'm not going to say this is like permanent, but we've hit like a sort of peak. And like Blossom mentioned, like kind of plateau, and I just don't see us necessarily escaping that for some time.
Okay,
we might go down. I just don't know if we'll go up.
Okay, you're very pessimistic. Okay,
That's good. I mean, I feel like we only need structure change, but like you said, it's gonna take a while. Mm-hmm. It's gonna take a long.
I think it's gonna take the people. Like structures don't change of their own accord, right?
Yeah.
You need. First, the ideas and a few, just like kind of, or not even like leaders, just like fellow people, fellow friends.
I've
family,
heard about
like,
this leadership principle somewhere before.
Like just like sharing their ideas with people such that the idea spreads, like the original definition of meme.
I think you're giving the people a lot of credit.
I think it's all we can give credit to.
I think they've earned that credit.
But I think, like you said, we need a few strong people to lead. And my idea has always been, or my worry has always been, that people were waiting for the next MLK, next Pope Francis, the next Malcolm X, all of these visionaries, and they keep talking about it, and they keep talking about the past, forgetting that these people did great things, and we're all so grateful to them and so indebted to them. But when is it gonna be our turn?
Well, I think the beautiful thing, and like I mentioned leaders because it's like the more readily, like it's what I think of, but like literally this conversation, the conversations we have with people, is that progress happening. Like let's say I talk to like some hypothetical family member I have who maybe thinks that some form of inequity is okay.
Shout out Peyton's family.
I'm hypothetical, they don't exist, okay?
You don't have a family?
No, the hypothetical family member that I'm discussing. But like you don't even have to like convince them necessarily. Just get them thinking about themselves, their experiences. You don't need like a leader.
You need
to
them
make it
to
all
unlock empathy.
Yeah, or just help like strengthen it a little bit, like a muscle.
I would disagree a little bit. I do think, yes, that's great, but
It's not enough.
it's not enough.
Well,
we need more people doing it.
I'll
It's an
also,
exponential growth curve.
That's great. I do think that's important, but I think ideas and sharing is great, and we can do that and become more enlightened society. But if no one steps up and says, all right, we've shared ideas, let's match, nothing will change.
I think not only is it not enough, but I'll also say like there are some people that just don't want to hear that, and then they won't. And those people just won't change.
No, that's fine.
I disagree with the great leader principle.
As do I.
I don't think it's historically evident. I think that we tend to latch on to figures in history, and that there are some genuinely great people, and those people weren't perfect. They were far from it. And it's, one, a danger to look for someone to idolize like that, and two, it's even worse to think that we can't have movement without those people. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the campus protests that we had across the nation about the Israel-Palestine war, for example, there was no one person that was sparking those protests.
It was a group.
It was a group, and they were decentralized. They didn't have one leader that managed the entire. It's a fact. They didn't have one leader for every single campus on every single school across the nation. It wasn't one person who was like, "Let's go and march." It was people that were like, "Oh, this is a great idea."
And even if there was like a centralized leader, it was still the responsibility of those people to show up.
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't see like a mass organization behind one person with like insane charisma.
So I'm not saying that you have to have, I'm just saying if nobody says, even if it's a group, it doesn't have to be, or at least it doesn't have to be, like you said, it can be anything. It can be a group, it can be 2 people, it can be 1 person. I don't really care. I just think that we can share ideas all we want. And we can stay in a room and amass people. And every day we can meet here at 6 o'clock and we can say the same things and they can spread it and spread it. But if nobody, even if it's a group, says, all of these ideas are good, let's go into action.
Well, just like by virtue of like there being different kinds of people, some being more extroverted, some being more charismatic, the more we spread this idea, the more people of their own volition will rise up and be like more leadership figures in their own way.
Well, yeah, that's why the whole, we can spread this as much as we want. Like, yeah, that's where we start, in my opinion, is like, and that, like, I don't know, to rise up right now and be like, the American justice system is unjust, like we would probably now. So that's why the whole, like, talking about it and, yeah, I don't know. Measured changes are probably what we'll see. Like you said, we'll make moderate progress. Me personally, I think that we've got like a whole basket of rotten apples right now, and I would rather just buy a new basket. But
I want to kind of go back. You say we don't need it to come from a leader, which is like in general, or do you think that's different for America? Because I think we're in a spot where like
I think broadly
but I think we can only be unified under ideas from a leader in America, and just like the way our government is structured.
Or I'll test that. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
All right, let's say mine is blue. Did you like come up with that because like my influence as such an amazing leadership role model for you? Like I know I definitely am, right?
Are you equating color preferences to policy decisions?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I think that like, or you know what? I'll work my way a different way.
Okay.
good idea.
When we look at like MLK, right?
Yes.
I think that on the surface, we're going to be like, that guy, he did it. But, shout out Martin Luther King. But, like, I think that if we look at things a little more critically, he's a symbol for an idea, and it's a uniquely potent symbol because we can empathize with the sentience, the emotions, the struggle. But nonetheless, it's more important and I think more productive that we recognize him as more of a symbol, even if he's a person, than a leader. Because then we fall into the struggle of like, oh, great man, wait for the great man.
Well, that's why, I mean, like people are people. People die, but ideas never die.
Exactly.
And that's why we assign ideas to people. In America, we do have a history of praising people in power. As much as we like to claim liberty, we talked about this last night, like the who's your favorite president thing, or like the George Washington cult, where, there's like a million cities named after Washington and Lincoln. But
I
also
went to schools named after Washington and Lincoln.
Yeah, we have a state. We have 2. Well, not yet. We have 1 and almost.
We have a city. Washington.
District?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Washington, D.C., state soon. But yeah, no. It's dangerous to give that much credit to people, but
The credit I give to people is by virtue of their ability to spread the ideas as a means, right?
I mean, like, to one, let me clarify. I love people.
Sure. I think we all do.
I love the idea of people, and I think, but the thing I disagree with is the great leader thing. And if our great leader is the people, then I guess I don't disagree with it all that much. But if it's like Logan is, I think, saying, where he's like, you need one who's like the embodiment of these ideas, I disagree with that.
it's more of like a political statement that like, otherwise we're just not going to be unified on anything. Because I don't even think we're capable of that anymore. And part of that, you can point responsibility to
I don't think we're capable of it yet, but we're working our way there.
I can agree with that.
So you think we could get there?
Probably.
And then once we get there, we wouldn't need like some dude to be like this.
Necessary for like passing legislation.
Okay.
I would probably say.
Okay.
Cool.
Where to next?
Where to next? Well, we talked about reforming the justice system. We talked about true justice. Where do you think it would go?
Like what we envision as a perfect system of justice?
Yeah. Now we talked about what is I know we all agreed pretty much there will never be perfection, right? Mm-hmm. What is a system that you think would be, after this talk, we already defined justice, but what do you think a just system would look like?
Can we define our just system with the caveat that justice is never changing?
Yes.
It's okay. It would be a system that reflects the needs and experiences of as many people as it's capable given that time and circumstance. So right now, in our time and circumstance, we've gotten a lot better. We've made progress, but nonetheless, there's still inequity, as we all agreed. So there are things we can do, legislation we can change, ideas we can spread that would minimize that inequity. But again, maybe a little pessimistically, I always think there's going to be a little bit. So the constant, it's going to be a constant change, but the change would be such that the inequity goes down.
Okay. Logan?
I'll pretty much agree, and I'll just like add, and I'll like base this in like criminal justice. I'll say that like we don't always strictly go, letter the law. We take into account circumstances, background, socioeconomics, and whatnot, and we factor that into our decisions of like how we punish people. Or we can even go and harken back to first semester Regents tryouts, focus on rehabilitation instead of punishment.
That was one of our topics. Oh, you did it. Or did you moderate, or was that your topic?
He was
I think
in
that
that
was ours.
topic, yeah.
You were on that
We
one.
were against
Okay.
each other.
I didn't even get to watch it, but I wanted that topic, so.
Such a good topic. But yeah, that's maybe where I'll differ slightly.
Awesome.
Me. I'm gonna go a little sciencey here
Yes.
There we go.
and be like,
STEM major.
if all things remain constant, which is in all things being socioeconomic status, race, divide, what else do we have?
Geography.
Geography. If all things remain constant, then the system itself, the judicial system itself, will have to reflect all of those things at that point in time.
In an equitable way, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would have to, we would all have to have different sets of laws for different kinds
Mhm.
of people.
Hold on.
The law itself will have to divide to fit all of those things. But if all things do not remain constant, say the economic status of an individual changes, because I think the judicial system it's in of itself, while we say that it's independent, it's not so independent. It's not so independent, I have to say that. And so if economy changes and the social economic status of individuals starts to change and it starts to be reflected across the board, that is, every strata systematically is no longer being oppressed, then the judicial system itself would just have to reform its laws, and then it can like build up from there. But if not, if everything remains constant, it has to be broken down, different laws have to be created. If everything starts to be stratified and worked, the law itself can be reformed.
What's up?
Did you preview?
No, yeah, it's like gonna
The
constantly
principles of
change.
justice are constant
Yeah.
while society is constantly progressing. I think that's what you were getting at.
Broadly, yeah.
Kind of.
Like, I think that our abstract principled understanding of justice is always constant, but how it manifests and how it should manifest is going to
Always
ever
evolving.
change according to like the disparities of the people in a given time.
I like that.
Yeah.
Logan
Your
doesn't
example
like
of like a
that.
trending.
I'm trying to think if I agree with that or not, because like
As the pessimist, I'm surprised you don't.
I love
He's like such a pessimist. I
I
didn't
love-
realize it before this talk.
I love the quote, no changes are permanent, but change is. So like in my mind, I just don't think there is anything that could possibly be constant.
You don't think that the principle that fairness for all people is a constant principle?
I think as a foundation, maybe that is,
Well,
but
yeah,
like
that's all
where
we're-
you branch out.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what we're saying. The application, it changes and it evolves, but the principle remains the same.
Okay.
Or-
yeah, I'm fine with that, I
Yeah.
guess.
No, I'm not going to try another color analogy.
I was about to say, like, he got it.
What's your favorite color? Oh, it's green this time.
It's great.
What I liked about your analogy is you're like, what's your favorite color? Blue. And you're like, mine's blue too. Did you choose blue because it's mine? And it's like, well,
Like,
I was going to
where
build
was
my
that
way
going?
through it, but then I got lost.
and then you were just like, you know what? Never mind.
We're gonna scrap that one, guys.
We're gonna put that on YouTube Shorts. I'm gonna be like, there's this stupid liberal guy.
It's
Of
not
course,
gonna
his
top
favorite
me.
color is blue.
It's not gonna top me saying I love abortion. Come on,
Color of
guys.
the demo craps.
And for the record, my favorite color is actually green. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I just
What's my favorite color?
red.
Yep. Okay.
My lightsaber color is the good guys.
My lightsaber.
Wait,
This is not part of our
never
discussion.
mind. Okay, I'm sorry. I've derailed us
Justice.
once again.
So, I just have one last question, really. Knowing what we know about the judicial system, and we know that historically they have played a role in civil rights in the United States, like a big role, and they are right now too. Federal courts are playing a big role in many arenas in protecting rights that have been fought for. But we also recognize, and we've made some arguments about people, do we think that the judiciary should stay as just judges that interpret the Constitution, specifically the federal judiciary here? Are they judges that interpret the Constitution, or are they movers of social change?
I would say they've always been movers of change.
Do you think they should be?
Yes and no.
Oh my God.
No,
just
no
got-
in the sense of like that's not probably not what courts should do, but yes in the sense it's like unrealistic to expect them not to, because like the courts have been political since Marbury v. Madison, right?
Okay, Dworkin, I see you.
So
That was a compliment.
oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I would go ahead and say they've not always been movers of social change,
Mm.
but recently more and more towards like